When empathy finally fights back and the narcissist can't handle it. Have you ever reached a point where silence became your greatest weapon? Have you ever walked away from someone who once made you feel small, only to realize that your quiet strength was more powerful than any argument could ever be? If you've had any kind of relationship with a narcissist, romantic, familial, or professional, you know how deeply manipulative they can be. They twist words, they rewrite history, they gaslight, they isolate, and they make you question your own reality. But here's what most people don't understand. Empathy is not weakness. It's power. And when empathy finally fights back, it doesn't scream. It doesn't lash out. It simply stops giving energy to those who abuse it. That moment, the moment empathy chooses itself over manipulation, is devastating for the narcissist. Because unlike rage or revenge, this kind of fight cannot be countered. It cannot be twisted. It cannot be undone. It simply exists. And in that existence, the narcissist begins to unravel. So if you're ready to uncover why empathy fighting back is the one thing a narcissist cannot handle, and how a single act of self-respect can destroy their control forever, then keep watching. Because today we're diving deep into the psychology behind this transformation, revealing how empaths hold the key to dismantling a narcissist's world without ever raising their voice. And if this resonates with your own experiences, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on emotional healing, personality disorders, and reclaiming your life after toxic relationships. Let's get started. Let's begin by addressing something most people misunderstand. Empaths are not victims. They may feel like victims during the relationship, but the truth is far more complex. Empaths are deeply compassionate individuals who give love freely, who listen intently, who offer support without hesitation. That makes them attractive targets for narcissists, who see their kindness as weakness. But here's the hidden truth. Empathy is not fragile, it's just patient. And when empathy finally decides to protect itself, it becomes unstoppable. Because narcissists rely on people staying confused, staying emotionally reactive, staying trapped in their games. But when an empath wakes up, when she stops reacting, stops explaining, and starts walking away, it shatters everything the narcissist thought he knew. Because suddenly, he realizes he never really controlled her. He only thought he did. Now, let's talk about the most painful truth for a narcissist. Empaths are the only ones who truly saw through them. Most people fall for the mask, the charm, the carefully curated image a narcissist projects. But empaths? They sense the disconnection. They feel the emptiness. They recognize the manipulation before most even notice it. Empaths don't just hear words, they feel energy. And the moment a narcissist steps into their presence, they know something is off. They feel the imbalance, the insincerity, the hunger beneath the smile. And that awareness is dangerous to a narcissist. Because narcissists rely on people seeing only what they want to show. When someone sees beyond that, someone who once gave them love, understanding, and emotional support, they become terrified. And when that person walks away, they carry a wound they will never admit to having. Here's the first reason empathy, fighting back, destroys a narcissist. They expected you to stay broken. Narcissists build their entire world around control. They believe that if they break someone down enough, they'll never rise again. And for a while, they might be right. You might doubt yourself. You might cry. You might feel lost. But then comes the moment of awakening. You stop questioning yourself. You stop believing their lies. You stop chasing explanations or apologies that will never come. And when that happens, when you start rising, not in anger but in peace, you strip the narcissist of his greatest illusion, that he broke you. And nothing terrifies a narcissist more than realizing they failed. Second, empaths don't fight fire with fire, and that makes them unbeatable. Narcissists expect retaliation. They wait for you to call them names, to expose them online, to confront them publicly. But when the empath refuses to play their game, when she walks away quietly, confidently, and unshakably, she leaves them with nothing. No reaction, no drama, no fuel for their ego. Just silence. And that silence is louder than any war. because it means she no longer cares. She no longer fears them. She no longer gives them space in her mind. And once that happens, the narcissist begins to panic, because he realizes that the person who once gave him so much energy now gives him none at all, and that absence is unbearable. Third, the empath's refusal to explain herself strips the narcissist of his narrative. One of the most powerful tools a narcissist uses is rewriting history. They tell themselves stories about how you were unstable, you were too sensitive, you ruined everything. But when the empath simply walks away without explanation, without apology, without justification, those stories lose their power. Because she doesn't argue, she doesn't defend, she doesn't chase closure. She removes herself completely. And that silence becomes a mirror. A mirror that shows the narcissist the truth he has spent years avoiding, that he manipulated someone who saw through him, that he discarded someone who once loved him deeply, that he hurt someone who gave him compassion without limits. And now, that compassion is gone, forever. And that loss cuts deeper than any accusation ever could. Fourth, the empath's healing journey becomes proof that the narcissist was never in control. As the empath moves forward, she begins to grow. She finds therapy. She reads books. She reconnects with people who genuinely care about her. And slowly, she rebuilds. Not just her life, but her sense of self. And that growth becomes a direct contradiction to the story the narcissist told himself. That he was the one who decided when she was worthy of love. That he was the one who held the power. But now, she's thriving without him. And that is the cruelest punishment possible. Because the narcissist wanted you broken. Instead, you came back stronger. And that strength is the loudest sound he's ever heard. Fifth, the empath's self-respect becomes a mirror the narcissist cannot stand to look at. The moment the empath stops apologizing for setting boundaries, she begins to reclaim her dignity. She no longer tolerates disrespect. She no longer explains her choices. She no longer allows the narcissist to define her worth. And when the narcissist sees this change in her, when he watches her radiate peace instead of pain, he feels exposed. Because he knows she used to give him everything. She listened. She supported. She forgave. And now, she gives him nothing. And that shift is more damaging than any confrontation. Because it proves that the empath no longer needs him. And when someone no longer needs a narcissist, they become untouchable. Sixth, the empath's silence forces the narcissist to face his own emptiness. Without the empath's energy, the narcissist is left with nothing but his own reflection. And for the first time, he begins to feel the weight of his isolation. Because while he surrounded himself with admirers, lovers, and followers, he never truly connected with anyone. Only the empath came close. Only the empath tried to understand him. Only the empath offered real emotional presence. And now, she's gone. And the silence left behind is deafening. Because narcissists spend their lives avoiding their inner void. But when the empath walks away, they can no longer ignore it. Seventh, the empath's detachment disrupts the narcissist's need for control. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. Whether it's love, anger, sadness, or confusion, they need to know they're affecting you. But when the empath snaps, when she removes herself completely, she takes away their oxygen. Suddenly there's no one to feed their ego, no one to validate their lies, no one to play the role of the loyal supporter, the eternal victim, or the forgiving lover. And that silence terrifies them. Because narcissists cannot survive in a vacuum. They need someone to believe in their image, someone to admire them, someone to react. And when the empath stops doing all three, the narcissist begins to panic. Eighth, the empath's boundary becomes the final blow to the narcissist's false identity. The moment an empath sets a firm boundary and sticks to it, she reveals the fragility at the core of the narcissist behavior. Because narcissists cannot tolerate real boundaries. They see them as threats, as personal attacks, as challenges to their dominance. And when the empath says no, not in anger but in peace, it exposes how much power they never really had. They begin to realize that the empath was never under their control. She was simply giving them the benefit of the doubt, offering them chances, hoping for growth. And now, she's done. And that realization is more painful than rejection, because it means the empath saw through him long before he ever saw her clearly. Ninth, the empath's exit creates a void the narcissist can never fill. Empaths give more than just affection. They give understanding. They give patience. They give emotional energy that most people can't even comprehend. And when the empath leaves, she takes that energy with her. The narcissist may find new sources of supply, new people to manipulate, new victims to control, but none of them will match the depth of connection he had with the empath. Because empaths don't just give love, they give presence, they give understanding, they give compassion. And without that empathy, the narcissist feels empty. He may not admit it, he may not even recognize it, but deep down he knows. He misses the way she listened, the way she tried to help, the way she gave him the benefit of the doubt, even when he didn't deserve it. And now, that presence is gone, forever. 10th, the empath's independence terrifies the narcissist. Empaths are often deeply loving, deeply intuitive, and deeply forgiving. That's why narcissists target them. But when the empath finally wakes up and chooses herself, when she builds a life that doesn't revolve around the narcissist anymore, something shifts. She becomes independent, confident, whole, and that independence is the narcissist's greatest fear. Because narcissists live in constant fear of abandonment, of irrelevance, of being replaced. And now, they see the empath living a full, meaningful life without them. And that life isn't filled with bitterness or regret. It's filled with light, and that light blinds them. 11th, the empath's refusal to return becomes the final wound. Many narcissists operate under the belief that they decide when a relationship ends, that they are the ones who choose when to discard, when to hoover, when to reappear. But when the empath chooses to walk away, and chooses to stay away, it disrupts their entire sense of control. Because they expected her to come back, they counted on her forgiveness. They assumed she would eventually miss them, beg them to return, or fall into old patterns. But she doesn't. She stays gone. And that permanence shakes the narcissist to his core, because it means she no longer cares. And for someone who thrives on attention, care is everything. 12th, the empath's healing becomes a symbol of the narcissist's failure. Narcissists don't fear losing people. They fear being seen for who they really are. And when the empath sees through the mask and walks away, when she rises above the chaos and builds a life rooted in peace, she becomes a living, breathing reminder of their failure. Because she was the one who gave the most. She was the one who tried the hardest. She was the one who loved the deepest. And still, she chose to leave. And that choice is louder than any words she could ever say. It tells the world and the narcissist himself that he was never good enough. And that message spreads like wildfire. Because people listen to the empath. People believe the empath. People follow the empath. And when she turns away from the narcissist, others begin to do the same. 13th, the empath's self-love becomes the narcissist's undoing. Perhaps the most painful truth for the narcissist is that the empath's final act of defiance is not hatred. It's self-love. Because the empath didn't walk away out of spite. She walked away because she finally saw her worth. She stopped sacrificing her peace. She stopped allowing his words to shape her reality. She stopped believing that loving him meant tolerating his destruction. And when the narcissist realizes that the empath left because she chose herself, not because she was defeated but because she was healed, it crushes him. Because he spent years convincing himself that she needed him, that she would always come back, that she was just another pawn in his game. But now, she's not just gone. She's better. And that is something he cannot bear. 14th, the empath's healing journey becomes a beacon that draws others away from the narcissist. Empaths rarely heal in silence. They speak, they write, they guide. And as they rise from the ashes of narcissistic abuse, they attract others who have suffered under the same hands. They warn people. They expose red flags. They empower others to walk away too. And that growing awareness becomes a slow but unstoppable wave of disconnection. Because the more people hear the empath story, the more they begin to question the narcissist character. And the more people question the narcissist, the more isolated he becomes. And isolation is the narcissist's worst nightmare. 15th, the empath's decision to go no contact becomes the catalyst for the narcissist's unraveling. Going no contact is not just a boundary, it's a declaration. A declaration that the empath no longer plays the narcissist's games, no longer tolerates the chaos, no longer allows the narcissist to define her reality. And when that declaration is absolute, no calls, no texts, no social media check-ins, the narcissist panics, because he realizes there's no way back in. He can't provoke a reaction. He can't rewrite history. He can't manipulate someone who refuses to engage. And that silence becomes unbearable, because for the first time he's facing a version of reality where he doesn't exist in her world anymore. And that is the cruelest punishment he could ever face. 16th, the empath's peace becomes a weapon the narcissist cannot counter. Narcissists expect pain. They expect grief. They expect bitterness. But when the empath walks away and radiates peace, it confuses them. Because peace is not something they understand. It's not something they can replicate. Peace is quiet, unshakable, radiant. And that kind of peace is dangerous to a narcissist. Because it means the empath no longer needs closure. She no longer seeks validation. She no longer believes the narcissist defines her worth. And once that happens, the empath becomes untouchable. And the narcissist is left with nothing but his crumbling illusions. 17th, the empath's clarity exposes the narcissist's confusion. Empaths often enter a relationship with hope, with faith, with the belief that love can heal even the most damaged souls. But over time, they learn the truth. Some people aren't meant to be fixed. Some people are only meant to be learned from. And when the empath finally understands that, she snaps, not in anger but in awareness. She stops blaming herself. She stops doubting her instincts. She stops wondering what she did wrong. And that clarity is the most powerful force in the universe. Because clarity cuts through deception. Clarity unmasks illusions. And when the empath speaks with clarity, even if she says nothing at all, the narcissist feels exposed. Because he knows she sees him now. And she doesn't flinch. 18th, the empath's refusal to argue is the most unsettling thing the narcissist faces. Most people fight back when they're hurt. They defend themselves. They accuse. They explain. They apologize. But when the empath gets angry, she does none of those things. She simply walks away. And that non-reaction is more powerful than any war. Because it shows the narcissist that he no longer matters to her. That his words no longer sting. That his presence no longer affects her. And that indifference is the loudest sound he's ever heard. Because narcissists don't fear hate. They fear being forgotten. 19. The empath's anger isn't loud, it's quiet. And that makes it deadly. Empaths don't express anger the way most people expect. They don't scream. They don't throw tantrums. They don't lash out. Their anger is subtle, internal, deep. It's the moment they stop giving energy, stop reacting, stop believing the narcissist version of events. And that shift is more powerful than any confrontation. Because it means the empath no longer fears him. She no longer doubts herself. She no longer gives him space in her heart. And once that happens, the narcissist is left with nothing but his own unraveling. Because the only way he ever felt strong was by breaking someone else. And now, no one is breaking. 20th, the empath's awakening causes a ripple effect that isolates the narcissist further. Empaths inspire others. They teach by example. They show people how to trust their intuition, how to set boundaries, how to walk away from toxicity. And when the empath snaps, when she cuts contact, removes herself, and begins to heal, those around her begin to notice. Friends start questioning the narcissist behavior. Family members begin distancing themselves. Mutual acquaintances stop falling for his charm. Because the empath was the last person who gave him the benefit of the doubt. And once she's gone, the mask begins to slip. People begin to see the pattern, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the lie, and slowly but surely, the narcissist finds himself standing alone. Not because of a single act of defiance, but because the empath taught the world how to say no. 21st, the empath's refusal to give energy becomes the final blow. Empaths give more than just affection. They give presence. They give understanding. They give empathy. And when they stop giving that energy, the narcissist feels it immediately. Because no one fuels his ego quite like an empath. No one listens the same way. No one offers emotional support the same way. And once that source is gone, the narcissist scrambles to find replacements. But none of them compare. Because empathy cannot be faked. It can only be lived. And once the empath stops living in his world, he loses access to the one person who gave him meaning, even if he refused to acknowledge it. 22nd, the empath's growth becomes the narcissist's greatest loss. Narcissists lose people all the time. They discard, replace, and move on without looking back. But when they lose an empath, it's different. Because empaths offer something rare, unconditional energy, real connection, genuine understanding. And once that energy is gone, the narcissist begins to feel the absence in ways he can't explain. He looks at his new supply and sees the difference. They don't listen the same way. They don't understand him the same way. They don't give the way she did. And he begins to rage silently at the injustice of it all. Because he tried to break the empath. He tried to make her doubt herself. He tried to convince the world she was unstable. But none of it worked. Because the empath found her strength in the darkest moments. And now, she's using that strength to change lives, including his future victims. And that is the most devastating form of justice possible. 23rd, the empath teaches others how to rise, and that spreads like wildfire. Empaths don't just heal quietly. They speak, they write, they guide. And as they rise from the ashes of narcissistic abuse, they attract others who have suffered under the same hands. They warn people. They expose red flags. They empower others to walk away. And that growing awareness becomes a slow but irreversible wave of disconnection. Because the more people who learn to trust their intuition, the fewer victims the narcissist can find. And when a narcissist runs out of new sources of admiration, he begins to unravel. Because narcissism thrives in secrecy, in confusion, in emotional fog. And empaths bring clarity. They bring awareness. They bring healing. And that healing is contagious. Finally, let's talk about what comes next. Because snapping at a narcissist is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning. It's the moment the empath steps into her power. The moment she releases the need for closure. The moment she chooses herself above all else. And that choice changes everything. Because now she's no longer defined by what she endured. She's defined by how she rose. And as she continues to grow, to heal, to shine, she teaches the world what real strength looks like. She teaches others how to walk away, how to reclaim their energy, how to live without fear. And in doing so, she becomes a warrior, not with weapons, not with vengeance, but with peace, with clarity, with self-love. And that is the most powerful form of justice there is. Because the day the empath snapped was not the day she fell apart, it was the day she woke up. The day she walked away. And that walk was the loudest sound he's ever heard. Thank you for watching. If you found value in today's video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this content with others who might benefit from understanding the mind of a narcissist and the incredible strength of an empath. Remember, you are not alone. You are not crazy, and you are not to blame. You are strong, you are wise, and you are worthy of a life filled with love, peace, and authenticity. Keep going, keep growing, keep shining, because the world needs your light, and you are finally free to give it.